and members of the public. Okay. Ready? Okay. All right. I'd like to call our meeting to order at 4:09 for the April 23rd, 2026 meeting of the Manhattan Beach Parking and Public Improvement Commission order. For participants of the meeting on Zoom, including applicants and members of the public, we will mute your microphone until we call on you to speak. When you are speaking, please silence any speakers on your device to avoid feedback. You may state your name for the record prior to speaking so that audience participants can follow who is speaking. All right. Commissioner Compa, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Delighted.
Thank you.
All please rise. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Can we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair O'Neill is absent. Commissioner Compa,
Present.
Commissioner Kirschenbaum.
I'm here. Could you please verify you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeJow,
Present.
Chair Marcy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, is the approval of the agenda for today's meeting. This is the time for the commissioners to notify us of any changes to the agenda. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
None.
Okay, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Thank you very much. All right, can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner DeJow,
Approve.
Commissioner Compa,
Approve.
Commissioner Kirschenbaum.
Approved.
Chair Marcy,
Approved.
motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next is the approval of the minutes from the March 26th meeting. Commissioners, any comments or questions?
Nope. I just thought it was an excellent summary, so thank you, Priscilla, for pulling that together.
Wonderful. Can we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Compa. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Can we have a vote, please?
Chair Marcy,
Approved?
Commissioner Compa,
Approved.
Commissioner DeJow,
Approve.
Commissioner Kirschenbaum.
Approved.
Point of order, Chair Marcy, I wanted to see, are we using the voting?
Electronic?
The electronic voting for
We're going to
motions?
be doing a voice
Voice.
call today because of the commissioner zooming in.
Zooming in. Gotcha, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Now is the time for audience participation. So members of the public may speak on any topic within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Parking and Public Improvement Commission that is not on the agenda. So if you'd like to provide public comment from your seat, inform us by raising your hand. Staff can provide a handheld microphone, and we'll make sure that your comments are heard. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and there will be a timer. When you arrived, the secretary asked if you wish to speak. Is there anyone at this time that would like to make public comment? Great.
So I want to do a little bit of research on the Sepulveda issues. And I was over at 8th and Sepulveda, and I was actually, happened to be walking across it at night. And it's about 200 feet from the crosswalk to the top of the hill on the southbound lanes. And driving at 35 miles an hour, it's less than 2 seconds per 100 feet. So, and braking time on average with reaction time is between 180 and 220 feet. So if you're at the top of the hill, you're coming over the top of that hill, you would have to start slamming on your brakes at that point to stop in time for the intersection.
Sorry, what, can you explain what hill you're referring to again?
So if you're driving southbound on Sepulveda
Yep,
into the 8th Street intersection,
okay.
and you're at the top of the hill at about 150, 200 feet or so at the top of the hill. And then
top.
so you're starting to drop down. So you're looking at like.
Towards
this.
8th Street,
Yeah.
okay?
So you're driving southbound and you've got about 200 feet. So that's 4 seconds. Average reaction time is 2.5 seconds for you to go, oh, hit the brakes. So you're already down the hill. And then when you start going down, your headlights are pointing down. They're not illuminating up into the crosswalk. So your reaction time is incredibly limited, you know, even at 35 miles an hour. And it says, you know, I did some research on this. So every 100 feet is 1.9 seconds at 35 miles an hour. And braking time or distance is approximately 200 feet. So if you're at the top of that hill and you slam on the brakes, you know, you're not going to see someone in the crosswalk until you start pointing down, so that's less than 200 feet. You're not going to have time to stop for that intersection if someone's crossing it, you know, like in the lights, you know, like if they're crossing it and it's green or something. So you've got very limited visibility. And also, if you look at headlights, only come up to about 3.5 feet, which is your pants, and most people wear dark pants. So at night, they're not illuminated, is a big problem. And also modern headlights, when you look at the headlights, they're perfectly level. They don't light up stop signs anymore, right? That's where you have the little flashing things on there. Like the old school headlights, they couldn't direct the beams very well. But the beams are designed like that so they don't blind oncoming drivers. But the hazard of it is they also don't light up pedestrians too well. Like you don't see somebody until you're pretty late into the game when you're like they're crossing a street. And so, so the hazards of that 8th Street is you're not getting the visibility until it's way too late. You know, you don't know somebody's in the crosswalk. You know, and when someone's crossing, they're not going to see the car until, you know, when it hits the top, you got 4 seconds before it drops down. So,
Apologies, I need to call a time.
sure. Okay.
Thank you.
But just want to give you guys that perspective.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much. Do you have any additional public comment? Anyone on Zoom?
No requests on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to general business.
And thank you, Chair Marcy. I can look
Yes.
into the visibility of that intersection and the crest of the hill for the signal at Sepulveda at 8th Street. I do know that there's some additional signal heads that are raised up higher on that signal pole to let the drivers know, because there is a visibility restriction because of the hill.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, now in general business. This item is the review of the proposed fiscal year 26-27 through 2030 to 2031 5-year capital improvement program plan. Can we get the staff presentation?
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
You turn on the mic, there we go.
Let me start over. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Gil Gamboa, the City Engineer for the Public Works Department, and I'm here to present the 2026 to 2031 2027 to 2031 5-year capital improvement plan for the PPIC review and recommendation to the City Council. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the Interim Public Works Director, Joe DeFrancesco, for his guidance. I also want to thank Principal Civil Engineer Marzena Laskowska for her work on the CIP. And I also want to thank our engineering division and project managers for their hard work in compiling the CIP, and more importantly, for their work in executing the CIP projects themselves. I also want to thank the Finance Department for their assistance in preparing the CIP as well. So the CIP was developed to meet regulatory and grant deadlines to assess community needs and priorities, align with the strategic goals outlined in the City Council's work plan, and evaluate financial impacts and the overarching need to reinforce public health and safety. The most common factors taken into consideration in making decisions include urgency, community impact, economic benefit, feasibility, sustainability, and asset preservation. So the capital improvement program, known as the CIP, is a comprehensive multi-year plan. It's a planning tool that outlines the city's strategy for investing in major infrastructure and facilities projects. The focus for today is that the CIP projects are aligned each year with the elements of the city's general plan and incorporate the priorities set forth by the city council and the broader community. So beginning with the CIP approval timeline, the CIP process runs parallel with the city's operating budget timeline. The typical timeline for approving the proposed CIP includes the following milestones. Last night, we presented the proposed CIP to the Planning Commission for conformance with the general plan. Tonight, we're presenting the CIP to the Parking and Public Improvements Commission. On Monday, April 27th, we're going to present the proposed CIP to the Parks Commission. And then on May 5th, we'll be proposing the CIP is going to be presented to City Council at the regularly scheduled meeting. Followed by a week later, on May 12th, the CIP will be presented to City Council in a budget study session format. And then the target is June 2nd for adoption by the City Council, along with the operating budget.
Excuse me, Eagle, can you just remind us, what is the fiscal year?
So the fiscal year is 27.
No, sorry. Is it June 1st to May 31st?
Oh, the actual physical, it's July 1st through June 30th.
Thank you.
Correct. Good question. And then again, it's 2027 through 2031.
So
it's-
this coming July 1st will be the start of fiscal '27.
Correct.
Thank you.
Moving on, here's a snapshot of the city's current 5-year CIP, proposed CIP. So the fiscal year 27 to 31 represents an investment of over $177 million across Manhattan Beach's infrastructure, public facilities, utilities, and environmental systems. The 5-year CIP spans 107 projects. 94.4 is previously appropriated. We have a current fiscal year request of 2027 of $19 million. And then we have future appropriations from going fiscal years 2 through 5 of the CIP of $64.4 million. Some of the key strategic priorities include execution of long-term upgrades for water, sewer, and storm drain systems, modernization of aging city facilities and infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, ADA accessibility, and public safety improvements. And then also environmental sustainability and resilience. Looking at the CIP project funding overview, by fund, there are 10 funding categories. We'll begin with the CIP fund. The CIP fund has 37 projects totaling approximately $32.9 million. The CIP fund supports a wide range of general city needs that do not fall under more specialized funding streams. These include parks, public facilities, and non-grant eligible initiatives. In addition, this fiscal year, the annual street and resurfacing program is partially funded by the CIP fund due to financial limitations in the street funds. So the CIP is the one fund that the city council has most discretion on in terms of moving projects around or prioritizing projects. Most of the other funds are set in stone for their allocations and the type of projects that they take care of. Projects in the CIP here, some of the highlights and focus are Senior Scout House project, Project Pulse, specifically the project at 400 MBB is included in the CIP fund. That's the former Union Bank site. Sand Dune Park, pier improvements projects, the facility structural assessment. The next fund is the street, sidewalk, and right-of-way funds. So the right-of-way funding has 27 projects totaling approximately $45.9 million. This includes the street, sidewalks, and right-of-way fund is dedicated to street, sidewalk rehabilitation, ADA ramps, pavement management, and safety enhancements. These projects are funded through 4 major local return sources. They include gas tax, which is the city's share of state and county gasoline tax collection by population. And then, as Eric likes to call it, the alphabet soup of local returns, the Measure M, Measure R, Measure C, and those are 1/2 cent county sales tax. Measure M was approved in 2016, Measure R in 2008, and I can't recall when Prop C came into existence on that end of it as far as year. Some of the projects' focus include residential street resurfacing in Area 4. Area 4 is our, in our slurry seal area, we have 7 areas in the city. Area 4 is basically bounded by Marine, Manhattan Beach Boulevard on the north and south boundaries, and then Sepulveda and Aviation. Over the last 8 to 10 years, we've been working slowly to resurfacing those streets. We have one more little corner up by Walgreens in that neighborhood. Magnolia, I think Cedar's in there, and those streets. And that, once that's done, that area will be complete there, also with utility projects on that. Manhattan Beach Boulevard is also in the picture, in the future picture between Sepulveda and Pacific to get resurfaced. Redondo Beach has approached us to partner in a cooperation agreement to resurface Aviation Boulevard. So Aviation Boulevard needs some attention there. 70% of that is in Manhattan Beach jurisdiction, and about 30% in Redondo Beach. So we're going to team with the Redondo Beach to get that done in the future years. Of course, our annual slurry seal, we're finishing up some areas, some streets in Area 6, which is over in the tree section by the Bell Avenue, Rosecrans, I think it's Flournoy and Valley Drive, that area. And then the biennial slurry seal will move over to Area 1, which is over by Meadows, Miracosta, and in that neck of the woods. And then, of course,
When is that going to happen?
What's that?
When?
The slurry seal runs biannually, so that will be two years from now that we'll hit Area 1. And then this year, we'll be finishing Area 6 on some of the streets that we need to get to there. And then also the annual CDBG, it's the Community Development Block Grant Funds through HUD, curb ramps project. So we get federal funding through HUD annually, which we can only apply to ADA ramps. So those are just some of the highlights in the street program. The next fund, moving to parking fund. So the parking fund has 10 projects at $10.2 million. The parking fund is dedicated to public parking facilities, including the modernization of parking structures and then reinvestment of metered based revenue. So the projects in focus include the conversion from meters to pay stations, and the Lot 3 redevelopment project are currently the focus here, along with I brought in a structural assessment project line item there for Lot 2 and Lot 4. I think it's time to look at those lots in terms of their longevity, since we demoed Lot 3 on that end of it, so it's time to look at those assets. Moving over to the state pier and parking lot fund, it has 3 projects at a total of approximately $2.2 million. The state pier and lot fund focuses on the maintenance and rehabilitation of the pier parking lots and the pier itself. The focus there was going to include future planning for pier improvements based on the pier structural assessment report recommendations. So back at the end of 2025, we finished a structural assessment of the pier, including divers went down to look at the pilings. We did some coring on the deck, so that report is being finalized now, so they'll be presented to City Council with some future repair recommendations. I've placed some funding in there in the future years. It takes a while to build up some of that funding in the pier fund to actually do some of that. It also takes a while to, when you initiate design, to get through the Coastal Commission to get to that point. And then also included from last year is the upper pier parking lot railing replacement. So we recently replaced the railing on the pier. The upper pier railing, the upper lots have railing as well. They were, I think, circa mid-90s on that end of it, so they are looking to get some attention as well. Moving over to our grants and outside funding, including Measure W. So the grant and outside fund has 9 projects totaling approximately $19.7 million. The grant and outside fund supports projects co-funded through federal, state, regional, or private grants. It prioritizes ADA improvement, sustainability, matching funds for regional partnerships. Measure W has 2 projects at a total of approximately $13.2 million. Measure W fund invests in regional and municipal stormwater management, green infrastructure, and compliance with state water quality mandates. And then the big focus here is the 28th Street Stormwater Infiltration Project, which captures the majority of the funding in this fund. 28th Street, we awarded in December. We've gone through the pre-construction activities. We're getting set to mobilize the week of May 4th. We're doing a bunch of public outreach right now. We met with some, the director and I met with some of the local residents right in the ground zero of where we're going to start, and that's over by Bruce's Beach. Moving on to our utilities. So storm drain, sewer, and water. Storm drain fund has 10 projects totaling approximately $5.7 million. The storm drain fund focuses on enhancing stormwater infrastructure and ensuring compliance with NPDES regulations, prioritizing solutions for localized flooding, and promoting long-term resilience. Projects in focus here are basically our trash capture TMDL for both the Santa Monica Bay and Dominguez Channel watershed areas, and then local flooding concerns. Revenues for the storm drain fund are looking flat, mostly on the annual on that end of it. I don't have anybody here from finance to speak to that, but if you guys have questions, I'll do my best to answer that. Sewer fund has 8 projects totaling approximately $25.1 million. The sewer fund is funded by sewer enterprise revenue. This category supports sanitary sewer lift station replacements or modernization and annual mainline replacements, master planning, and system reliability improvements. The project focus in here includes, right now we're about 50% done. We have a Voorhees sewer lift station construction ongoing. That's over on the corner of Voorhees and Rowell over by Miracosta. So that's probably one of the top impacted stations that we need to replace. Back in 1997 was the last time we did some major mechanical, electrical overhauls on that. So the stations you want to do, you're looking at probably doing every 25 years or so. So that's getting capacity enhancements, new pumps, electrical on that, which also give us more emergency response for our maintenance crews if something goes wrong there. So that's going to help move that wastewater into our pipelines. And then also other focus, we're going to put an RFP out for the next sewer master plan. So our master plans, we try to do every between 10 to 15 years on that. And so that'll help prioritize future sewer projects and funding for those. The water fund has 10 projects totaling approximately $22.2 million. The water fund supports enterprise-funded water system enhancements, including major booster pump station upgrades and annual reliability-focused capital improvements. Some of the focus here are 2nd Street and Larson Street booster pump stations for the Hill Zone pressures area, and then annual water main pipeline replacements on that end of it. One thing I want to mention with the water and sewer, and even part of some of the storm days, where we're at in our period of aging infrastructure with our systems, is it's not time to look at these individual projects with the stations, the pump stations, the lift stations. And it's time to rehab these. So usually our focus is the annual pipelines and replacing those. But we're at a point where we're putting funding towards these and implementing these projects, so that way we can keep these stations moving, and that way the annual pipelines are great to do on that end of it. We will continue doing those after we get these stations. But if we can't move the water from the low points to the high points where it needs to go, then we're going to be in trouble there. So moving on, the last funding is the street lighting and landscape, and that has 2 projects. It's an annual allocation for citywide street light maintenance. And then the capital improvements projects schedule, it's the attachment in the staff report. And I kind of want to break this down. I think in past CIPs, I think we can do a little better about kind of debunking how this works. So here we have a list of projects, or by the same funding categories I just went over, the 10. The first column is a prior year appropriation. So that column is basically each mid-year, we have our project managers project what they're going to spend from January to June on that end of it. Finance provides our revenue streams for us to try to balance this out. So we take the remaining funds and then we do a reduction of what we project we're going to spend, and then that becomes a snapshot in time. Basically at the mid-year, that becomes the prior year appropriation. So it's important to note that that's a snapshot in time, so we're ongoing paying invoices as we do our projects on that end all the way through the end of the fiscal year here. Then we get to the fiscal 2027, so this is our ask. So this is our request of what we're going to actually appropriate and then encumber to, for all these projects. And then the fiscal year 28, 29, 30, 31 are our projected needs that we're going to need for future funding, depending. So each of these columns, we also then do a kind of a, in concert with finance, they give us the revenue projections for these funding sources, and then they back out the capital operation, or the core operation costs, and then they back out, our CIP needs on that end of it, and then we end up with our CIP funds, trying to balance whether we can balance them out or not. So that's why projects sometimes from year to year shuffle funding on that end of it, because we're trying to keep each fund balanced out on the bottom line for each of the fiscal years. So it's not a simple exercise. It's very much back and forth, because as we progress from the mid-year to now, or June, when the CIP gets adopted, revenue sources come in, a clearer picture comes in of where we're going to land on that end of it. So that's a kind of a little bit of how this project, the CIP schedule comes together. And it includes all the 10 fundings. So in summary, the CIP plan is based on specific investments that encompass about $46 million dedicated to street, sidewalk, and right-of-way improvements, enhancing mobility and public access, about $66 million in utility infrastructure, reinforcing long-term system reliability and resilience. Again, we have grant-funded and ADA-focused projects prioritized to leverage external resources and advance accessibility. Measure W-funded stormwater initiatives, aligning with regional water quality goals and sustainability mandates, and then strategic upgrades to parking and pier facilities, preserving some of our high-use assets. And then the recommendation here, so I do apologize. I want to do a correction to slide 11 here, and revise it to read from parks to parking. So the staff, so I apologize that. So the staff recommends that the Parking and Public Improvements Commission review the proposed projects included in the fiscal year 2026, 2027 through 2030-31 5-year capital improvement program plan, and provide comments or feedback. And as a side note, all feedback will be presented to City Council as standard practice at its forthcoming budget meetings scheduled for May 2026. So with that, I'm here to answer most of your questions, and then on that end of it.
And also, I want to draw your attention to 2 pieces of correspondence that we received via email that's on your dais as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your thorough presentation. Appreciate it very much. Why don't we start with questions? Would you like to begin?
Gil, I think you got my list of questions beforehand, right?
I take a look. I pay attention.
Okay, good. So I appreciate you answering the first 2 that I had in there relative to, what are the prior appropriations and how is that calculated? Still a little fuzzy for me. So when I think about a plan, I usually like to see kind of like, what are we going to do this year? What's it going to cost, and can we afford to do it? So my question really is, where can I see that? Where can I see what your plan is for this upcoming fiscal year? What projects do you have planned? What is the planned expenditures you have? And how does that consume the budget you have by fund?
So that gets set once council adopts the CIP in June. On that end of it, you can see that on our website. There'll be current projects that are ongoing right now. Just in a snapshot, this last fiscal year, we got 6 projects completed, and that was about, I think, $7.4 million. And then the plan for next year, we have 23 projects that are going to be in construction in some form or fashion. Some already started right now. Between now and next June 30th, 2027, there'll be about 20, we have 20 or over 20 projects that I'm targeting to get into construction. And those are going to total $92.5 million. A large chunk of it is taken up by 28th Street. That's a $28 million project. MBATS is our Manhattan Beach Advanced Traffic Signal System project where we're connecting all our traffic signals with fiber optic. That's a $17.7 million Measure M fund.
I can see the existing one on the website.
Right.
Okay, and that would be under Public Works?
Correct. The engineering division, capital improvement, we have a overall map, interactive map, where you can click on the dot or click on the line. It'll bring you to it'll bring up a summary table of the project, and you can go to the actual project webpage to get details on that.
Okay.
And sometimes it's a little bit misleading because
Right.
projects have multiple phases going on, and some of those phases take 2 or 3 years to go through. So you may have lots of projects ongoing, and the prior year appropriations may look like a lot of money, but it may have been spent already, or it may be part of what's ongoing for a 3-year phase.
So adding on to Eric's comment there, yeah, exactly. So some projects, we need to do a feasibility study. We need to gather some info, some environmental or something, or some preliminary. Then we have to bring that, public outreach. Then we have to bring that, or go through coastal commission permitting or whatnot. Then we have to go through council to appropriate, then we get a better estimate of what we need in the future.
Very familiar with
Yeah.
projects going through phases, covering multiple years. I mean, I did program project management for 20-plus years in my, personally and professionally. So the one thing as I look through here, we have some known undefined projects, right? So like build of Lot 3, build of 400 MBB, redo of Beck Pool, those numbers aren't in here. So if those were to be approved by the city council, more money would need to be spent. Do I understand that correctly?
You are correct. So those have, I don't want to call it seed money, but right now we're doing some conceptualization efforts. So those were appropriated last fiscal year so that we're able to carry out some of these Lot 3 redevelopment, pay the conceptual consultants to come up with some conceptual designs to bring forth to council. And then once council gives us more defined direction, then we can program out in the future years.
Okay. So, semantics are really important to me.
Sure.
What I see here is really not a plan. I see it as a backlog of known work. That's what we're looking at, not a plan, because a plan would tell me what we're going to see after you present to city council. So, asking for approval and guidance for the plan, I can say I understand the backlog of work, but I haven't seen the plan yet. And I'd have to see that to say I'm okay with it. Okay, does that resonate? Does that make sense where I'm coming from?
Understood. It is a plan, though. It's a guiding tool.
It's a guiding tool.
It's a guiding tool. It's a guiding, the semantics, that if the plan, it's a guiding tool on that end of it.
Okay.
And I'll my 2 cents into is, I would say it's more of a financial plan than it is a logistical plan.
Correct. So again, it's a budget
Okay.
guiding tool. And we're in concert with finance because we have a certain amount of revenue coming in, and we have to balance out how we can, with projects on that. So if less revenue comes in, if more revenue comes in, we can put it towards a lot of projects. Less revenue comes in, some hard decisions need to be made on which projects need to be prioritized.
I'm going to go study this stuff on the website because I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was there, so I'll try to come up to speed. It's my first time on dais. in this commission going through this, so I appreciate your patience with me, everybody. So on the list of projects, how does that get developed? And I'm going to put that in context. On our board at a HOA up in Park City area, and we have to do a reserve study every 5 or 6 years, and we have to hire someone to do that, and they go through and identify all of our assets, and then go check the age and figure out what the replacement costs are. How do we in Manhattan Beach come up with our list of projects, and how do we get comfortable that it's complete and correct?
So good question. For our utilities, we do master plans. And I said we do those every 10, 15 years. So that's sewer, water, storm drain. Each of those utility systems have master plans that we hire a consultant. They look at the previous master plan that was done, projects we've gotten completed. We can't, like in the sewer instance of the sewer master plan, we camera the lines to see what condition are. We talk with our maintenance groups and see where the hotspot problem areas are. So we put all that together for those utilities on that end of it. The master plan comes up with our assets preservation. They also forecast projects, CIP, future projects and needs and priorities on that end of it. So they make recommendations in that sense. City Council has a work plan. City Council community needs. So projects get inputted or brought forth through commissions like this. Did you want to add or anything else, or you're good?
Yeah, sometimes a project will come up out of a work plan item. It'll come up from the general public or from one of the interest groups that are in the city, say for instance for baseball fields or something like that. It's up to the city council to decide whether or not to put it on to or into the CIP and then to set the priorities for those projects. There's different funding sources for different types of projects, and so say for instance with the water fund, those are limited of course to the water type projects, and so that gets those funds get spent according to these master plans. When you have general funds, that's not the case, and so it really does come down to the discussions, the study sessions of the city council, these forums, public forums, to find out what the community's priorities are.
Okay.
One other way, back in 2013, there was a facilities assessment plan, so a lot of projects came out of that. We've gotten done from that one. We did a feasibility study on Beg Pool in 2024, and then out of Fire Station 2 came out of that. That project's completed. So some of these are, were initiated, a decade ago on that and are carrying through.
So what I hear you saying is that it's very similar. You have kind of your inventory of assets,
Correct.
and you're doing checkpoints at different intervals, so it's not all in 1 year, but you're doing that in a very similar manner to see what's going on, trying to highlight issues so we can get those on there. So
Right.
that's how you get comfortable it's complete. And the correctness is, as you go through that, you're checking the numbers and getting third-party opinions on the pricing.
Correct. And the other side of that is the staff resources to actually, carry these out on that end of it. So trying to balance that out well on the delivery end.
Okay. Let me pause to see if anybody else got some questions. I have a few other ones, but let me pause for just a minute.
Would you like to?
I have questions, but you can go next if you'd like.
I'll wait till the end here, but.
Okay.
Please.
So I have 3 process questions, Gil. First is, during the CIP planning cycle, does anyone ever go back to look at the forecast from the previous cycle to see how accurate those forecasts were?
Yes. So I do that, we do that. We go back and look at that to see how realistic, project in there. So this one, Magenta and I, we combed through to see how realistic are these projects in terms of current priority and completing, in a timely manner in that sense. So we do take a look at the past.
Right. So, for example, in row, what is that? 96. There's $700,000 in fiscal '27 allocated to parking payment facilities, right? So in February of '27, is somebody going to go look at, okay, forecasted 700,000 for that particular line item. Did we really need 700,000? Did we need more or less? And then, is forecasting accuracy part of the way your department is measured?
In terms of, well, in terms of the department being measured by, forecasting accuracy isn't a metric that,
Okay.
on that end of it. We do, the 700,000 in this case was previously appropriated, for, and I'm trying to find that line, it was 996?
Yeah. I just picked
For
that
lot
one up.
three?
Because, yeah, it says annual parking payment facilities improvement program.
Yeah, so that was, that particular line item is for the meters going to pay stations.
Yeah,
So
I
we
just
did,
picked that.
yeah, so we did a study, or we did I think it started about a year ago on that with and then council, it was recently brought to council.
Right.
So that consultant they came up with a total of 3.6 million to do that implementation of going from meters to
Kiosks.
kiosk, correct.
Bob, can I just ask the question, similar question, just in a different way?
No.
And there's one other point I want to make real quick, and there also here, we also plan annual, funding for whether it's a smaller project or if we're trying to build up, for a bigger one-time project versus, and then also the ones that have, specific names, everything are individual projects that are, point specific.
Okay.
So, Gil, I've been attending the city council meetings, most of them for the last 2+ years. I have yet to have something presented that said, we plan to spend X dollars for a project, we spent Y, and the variance was Z. There is no visibility that I see and can get to on that. Where can we see that? Because that is.
That's related to,
Yeah, I'm trying to be very direct in that, in terms of it. For example, we finished the pier railing project, and I said, great, let's celebrate this. We did a huge project, big numbers, so let's applaud who did it. But let's talk about what we forecasted, what we spent, and what the variance was, an explanation if we went over, why. Never heard that. Where can we, as a public and a community of residents, understand where we stand on that?
So those are down at the project manager level, but I understand your question. So those are through staff reports, and there's a budget and expenditures table that's usually included on it whenever an item comes there, but it evolves through the project. So at the beginning, you're just going to see, if it's just appropriating monies for a feasibility study, then it will just show that. And then after the feasibility study, then we'll be in better position to include estimates for construction on that end.
go and try to estimate the engineer's cost estimate so that we can appropriate money. There isn't as Mr. Gamboa said, a holistic way of showing that for multiple projects. We don't have that from the city standpoint.
So like Mr. Zambelli said, it's on a case-by-case, project case-by-case basis in the staff report. You definitely see it at, during the construction award, you're going to see the full estimate of what we've spent on design, pre-feasibility, and then what the construction contract is, construction management, inspection, all that will be there. Budget, funding for that project, anticipated expenditures, all that will be in the budget and expenditures table. In the past, we used to bring progress payments to council individually, like every month. So a contractor does work, he gets paid for the previous month. So it's always lagging a little bit. Those progress payments used to be brought to council to get approval. It also gives a good chance to give council an update on the project or whatnot. It's also time consuming, and sometimes it's hard to get items on council on that to keep that, going. That was kind of an avenue, but that's where to look for those.
Okay.
All right, my next process question is, you have 10 project buckets, right?
Correct, categories, correct.
Categories. So what is the process? I guess it's city council who has the ability to move money around from one bucket to the other?
Yes.
In case that has to happen?
Yes, but it's, like I stated before, they only have the city council really only has the discretion, the most discretion they have is in the capital improvement fund.
That one bucket?
That one bucket.
Okay.
The other buckets have state, federal regulatory limitations to them so for example, like Eric
Okay.
was saying before, you pay your water bill. So part of your water bill goes to water projects. Another percentage of it goes to the sewer fund. So those
nobody
buckets-
can reallocate
Correct.
that money
Right.
to something else?
Those are locked in.
Okay.
If it's not enough coming in, then, because you got to pay for core operation costs as
Sure.
well. And then what's left of that is can go towards CIP capital projects. And then, on some of the funds, finance and council likes to set or would sometimes sets policy reserves on some of these buckets.
Sure.
On that end of it. And so, when we get, when we get those revenues in from finance, we look at what our core expenditures for operations, and then what's left is what we can do, with CIP. And so then we have to take that number and balance these fiscal years with the needs, those project needs that we'd like to accomplish. And the project needs stem from not only just, council's list or the community needs or that, but the infrastructure itself.
Oh, for sure.
The needs from the like that is
Yeah.
another way of
Sure.
how the plan gets developed,
So city council has some discretion to take some money out of the CIP bucket and put it into the water bucket if that was some emergency happened, right?
Yeah, just for conversation's sake, yes, in that sense.
Okay.
It usually works the other way around because, for instance, right now, our Alphabet Soup or our local return for street resurfacing, all those Measure M like that, those all have to go to transportation projects. Right now, from the state down to the county to the city level, those funds are flat or even kind of dipping, like Measure M, Measure R on that end of it. So our annual allocation of those that are coming in isn't quite making it for what the street resurfacing that we need to do. So now we're supplementing it through the CIP fund in that case.
Okay.
But
So
that's
many-
going to be
That's
competing.
a good example.
Yeah.
So many times, the city council takes the action to supplement restricted funds and adds more from the CIP fund, which is general funds, or from the general fund from some other source altogether.
Yeah.
But you can't transfer restricted funds to restricted funds.
Thank you. Okay.
And then, of course, we look for grants that can be, state, federal funding on that end to help, deliver some of these projects.
And my last question is a simple one. So the police department, publishes every week a crime survey, and they've broken the city down into 8 zones. And you referenced that there are 4 zones for the projects that you're doing in Public Works. they're completely, those zones don't overlap at all, or do they with the police 8?
They might overlap, they're not in that sense. We kind of use our slurry seal, it's got 7 areas in our slurry seal.
Right.
And we rotate biennially, so every 2 years, we're trying to go to the
Yeah, but
next
that,
zone. Right.
but
that's
Area
what-
7
Yeah, is
for you is not
Not
Area 7 for
the
them.
police department,
Okay.
correct.
That's what I was wondering, thanks.
Good question, I'm gonna go look at what their neighborhood zones are.
I know, Alan, can I just squeeze one in
Yeah,
before we go to Alan?
please.
So when I look at the schedule of capital improvements by fund, this is what you're asking to be appropriated, but it doesn't say what we're funding is, and if we're gonna have enough funding for all this,
This is, well,
right? So, because we have the prior year appropriation, that said, we have this projects we gotta do, we think that they're gonna cost, I'll take the CIP fund, 12,209,000. And next year, we're gonna ask for another 5.175. So that's the cost of doing these projects.
correct.
But it doesn't compare it to what we have funding for these.
It does because, going back to my point, we take that mid-year, we project what we're going to spend from January to June, right? It's a snapshot in time. We settle on a prior year appropriation, which, like you said, we have projects ongoing, whatever phase they're at, this is the funding. We figure out we need more, or new projects come in, and so that's the appropriation in the fiscal year '27. So those two together are balanced from the revenue sources that are given to us by finance, taking out core operations. Each of those fiscal years are balanced bottom line. So CIP fund, for example, that we're looking at right now, we scroll down the total for the CIP fund, that's balanced with information from finance based on their revenues. So they give us their revenues.
So in simple terms, you're planning to budget.
Right, that's what this is. This is
You're planning to
the budget.
Okay.
Right. I want to make some clarification notes too. Say, for instance, on the spreadsheet that's there now, the prior year appropriation may be multiple years in previous years for different phases of the project. You may not appropriate all of the funds for the whole project at once because you don't have funds for it, and so, of course, right? So you wait for when you do have available funds or when the project needs to be constructed in order to decide which year to appropriate the funds. And as Mr. Gamboa said, you're balancing the revenue coming in versus the expenditures going out. So you have to decide which projects get that pot of that year's money, right?
The other thing is if you appropriate, try to appropriate the entire project funding in 1 year, fiscal year one, it's very difficult because obviously you won't be able to balance each fiscal year to be in the stay in the black. Second, council direction changes, obviously, so if you prioritize one project, then all of a sudden council wants to go to a different direction, you're gonna have that chunk of money just locked up and not being able to go elsewhere.
Okay, thank you. Alan's probably dying to talk. so-
Yeah, let's go on to Zoom. Commissioner Kirchner.
I believe my first question is, this is the question period, not the comments period, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. You're asking
Okay.
questions for clarification or for knowledge.
Thank you. I only have one question. Most of these projects are multi-year. I assume you're using an inflation factor, and we all recognize that forecasting inflation is very, very difficult. But if you could just tell us, what are you using a general inflation factor for all of the 5 years projected? How do you do that?
We typically look at the CPI for each of the years, and then obviously maybe increase it over, when you get out to 2031, you're really, you're kind of reaching there to see what's going to happen there. But that's kind of in short, that's kind of the baseline method we use. There's cost estimating levels in the AACE, it's industry standard, class 1, class 5. So depending on where the projects are and what, on those end of it. And then we also got another shot at the apple, because like I said, we appropriate the monies in this fiscal year, 2027, that are going to get encumbered because we need contracts to get, going, we need the work to get going. But the other 4 fiscal years, fiscal years 2 through 5, we're coming back next year to repeat this process, and we can reevaluate what those future funding means on that end of it. If one other project, flips or hopscotch over another project as priority, and that project needs that funding, then we're able to move that funding in those future years.
I will also add that almost all of the restricted funds projects also need to be appropriated by the carrier or the
Grantor.
agency, the grantor of the fund. And so they require fiscal plans, financial plans, showing your different phases of the project, when you plan on doing those. All of those financial plans have aggregators that increase for future years for the cost of construction or something like that in the out years. So that's built
Thank
into
you.
built into the financial plan of the project itself.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Cohen.
Gil, when I take a look at the schedule underneath the parking fund, I appreciate that you put in there the last 2 items for structural condition assessment for Lot 2 and Lot 4. You're asking for appropriations in 2028, which means that the work would not be done until 2028, fiscal year 2028.
That's a good point you're making.
Because our concern here has been, we're hurting for parking, and if we have Lot 4 fail on us, that's going to be really horrible for our community. So, personally, I'd like to see that assessment done yesterday. So I'm just, what's the thinking, what's the constraints, and what keeps us from getting this done faster?
Excellent question. So again, we balance these out with the revenues that come in for fiscal 27 and 28, 29, 30, 31, right? That was the earliest I could fit those new projects into the CIP.
Unless the city council decides
right.
to change the priority, which means that this commission would need to ask the city council, we would like to change the priority of what's on this plan, financial plan, to rearrange that. And it basically pushes a different project farther down the line, right?
Okay.
And again, the other point I want to make is that these are for feasibility assessments, like structural assessments. And a lot of in general for these, when we budget in a fiscal year, the projects don't get done in the same fiscal year. We can't possibly budget a project, do all the preliminary engineering that we need, get the final design, and then actually construct it in the same fiscal 12 months. It's almost impossible to do, even for small projects. And the reason being is it takes the CIP process, not like the private. I can't just go pick out an architect or a design engineer. I have to go through a procurement quality-based selection. I have to go through an RFP process. I have to award that contract to council. That takes 6 months. Then I have to bid. Then once they design it, that takes an average of 6 months. Once the final design is done, it takes 3 months to go through the bidding it out, advertising, bidding, awarding it with city council on that end of it, and then getting the contractor started. Then you're hitting construction. So those are kind of durations that are very real to us on project manager levels to deliver even a $250,000 project or a $28 million 28th Street infiltration project.
Thank you. I summarize that in my head as Lot 4, we won't know if it's a problem until 2028. And if it is a problem, we won't be able to get it fixed probably until 2031 or 2032. Okay, thank you.
Welcome to City
Unless
Government.
unless it's an emergency like Lot 3, but that's why we're doing the feasibility so that right now it's not an emergency.
No, I appreciate
So,
it.
yeah.
Thank you. It's been enlightening. I appreciate it.
Any additional questions?
No, I think I've got enough.
I do want to touch on a couple of the pieces that came in the correspondence here. So there was a question about the annual storm drain repairs, and was that forecasted to be closer to $1 million and is reduced to about $500,000 each year? Is that a correct assessment?
Yes.
And why was that?
So again, the annual storm drain fund is, revenues are, we're seeing more flatter, reducing level of revenues. We have more one-time specific projects. So in that sense, we've used a lot of the annual funds together to do these one-time projects, such as 28th Street, these TMDLs. And these are all state mandates that we need to reach these, protecting the Santa Monica Bay, the Dominguez Channel, protecting our watershed. So we need to implement these now. But there is the storm drain fund is heading more towards a reduction in that revenue income stream on that end of it. When we present the operating budget on May 5th to the City Council, the Finance Department you'll hear a little bit more about those challenges.
Okay. It looks like there's a question here about the funding from the previous fiscal year and how some of these projects were funded from the prior year appropriation. I wouldn't want to go deep into this, but do you want to give just a general?
I'm sorry, maybe if you could paraphrase that question again, is it?
Reviewing, just the individual is reviewing the CIP materials and is questioning where the funds were coming from to pay for some of the prior year appropriations.
So again, it's kind of the same from the need that was established, whether it's a master plan, city council direction, or whatnot. They were in prior years. They were going through the same exercise of, estimating how much that project needed, where does it need to be, where does it fall in terms of the funding category that it needs to be in, whether it's parking or streets or sewer,
Was the
water.
question more?
I think
Yeah.
the question is more, where's the money coming from?
What pot of money is the
Well,
money coming from?
it depends on what, is there a specific project in that question or
No,
not?
it
So
looks
if
pretty
it's,
general here.
yeah, if
So
it's streets, it comes from our local returns, which are state, county, sales tax, or not sales tax, yeah, half-cent sales tax, or gas tax in that sense. If it's sewer, it comes from a portion of your water bill. If it's water, it comes from your water bill. Storm drain comes from the county, county assessment. If it's CIP in that, if it's a parks on that end of it, it comes from our CIP, which I'm not going to say it's not a slush fund, but it's everything that doesn't fall into a restricted funding category gets put into the CIP.
So it could come from grant funds
Right.
that are from some other place. It could come from general funds. It could come from a variety of places. But that's the holding point, that's the holding pot, if you will, for those types of projects. Some of these projects are in multiple pots, and you'll see the same project under different funding sources because they're eligible for multiple funds, and that's how we're able to get the project done.
Okay. Did you have?
Just, I think, in that one, the same vein is like, we have the sales tax, so it's half-cent for these different measures. Is it the sales tax that's generated in Manhattan Beach, or how is that distributed? Is it like?
LA County distributed, like the gas tax, this is a gas collect, you pay at the pump, that's by population, but the sales tax are county measures.
Okay, so
There were passed, a half-cent sales tax passed in
And
2008,
they are
2016.
distributed based on a variety of formulas, but mainly population.
all right, thank
And the way they're distributed is they trickle from the county or through Metro, MTA, and through our South Bay COG organization to
And
help.
transportation type
Right.
funds are sometimes allocated by street mile.
you. Oh, well, okay,
So the number of street miles that you have in the city.
thank you.
In regards to wayfinding, phase one was already completed and paid. Is that correct? I don't see
Correct.
it in here. So the status of that is completed?
Yes, phase one included business directory signs, parking, I think the parking lots, so signage for those.
Street signs are in phase two?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, is it possible for you maybe just to elaborate a little bit on the assessment of the two lots costing upwards of $500,000 and just maybe give an idea of why it would cost that much to assess the two lots?
So we have Lot 2 and then Lot 4. The pier, just to give a kind of a sounding board, the pier structural assessment was about $236,000 to get a consultant on and do the structural testing on that end of it. We did, based on some of the payments we did for Lot 3 in the past, the 250 will cover a feasibility study or a structural assessment on those two lots for their conditions. So 250 for each one is somewhat the reasoning there.
Okay. All right. If there's an opportunity to combine those two and negotiate that a little bit, I think that would be prudent. But again, just want to make sure that they're doing our due diligence on that.
The CIP fund is definitely a competing priorities.
Yeah. Commissioners, were there any additional questions?
Yeah, I have one more.
Please.
I'm sure Gil's expecting me to ask this question. Because this has been a pet thing for me for the last 3 fiscal years. The Metlock escalator replacement, do you happen to know the status of that project? If not, I'll pursue it offline.
Just briefly, we have one architect on board there. I'm bringing back a council item to get their contract term extended on that end of it. I had some staff leave this last fiscal year on that end of it, so I need to get their contract extended so they can complete that design. So
the design's not complete yet?
Not yet. It started, but I need to fund the design consultant's contract first.
When would you anticipate, assuming you get the funding, the design to be complete, and then we enter the next phase?
Probably by the end of this calendar year, and then we'll get to that point. So
The design will be finished by the end of the
I anticipate that's my target for Metlock's escalators, and then that's a long lead item, so it'll still be a little while.
So more calendar years before they're replaced?
It depends on when ordering the replacement parts and the replacement, long.
But
lead
if the
components
design's
for that.
not going to be complete?
Correct.
until the end of this year.
It'll be well into 2027.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And I didn't know that question was coming.
All right. Let's. Is there any public comment?
No public comments.
Great. Is there anyone on Zoom that would wish to speak?
No requests on Zoom.
Thank you. So we'll close public comment period, and we'll move on to commissioner discussion. Eric, are we looking for a recommendation here, a motion, or what would you like from us today?
We're looking for an overall recommendation to proceed forward with the proposed CIP. We're also looking for individual comments with regard to, say, for instance, individual projects or priorities that you have as a commission for the projects that are on the CIP list. You can also ask questions about potential projects, but that's incorporated as part of the study sessions. There may be additional projects that are added as a result of the city council's presentation, the study sessions, or their discussions as well. That has happened in the past.
Okay. Let's go backwards. Let's start with Commissioner Kirschenbaum.
Thank you. Quick comment, which is actually a thank you to Eric and others. I'm really pleased to see that the kilns for this pottery studio are no longer on this project list because you've successfully completed the projects. This is my 6th year of going through the capital improvement projects, and I recognize how long the lead up is on many of these. I appreciate the work that you and Public Works are doing to try to move these as quickly as possible. And I think, unfortunately, our city has a major exposure risk due to the length of time on these projects and inflation that occurs from both supply chain and labor issues. And that's why I'm so concerned about how we view inflation on these longer term projects. Those are my comments. And again, thank you to everyone who put a lot of hard work into putting this together.
Thank you. Mr. DeJong.
To echo what Alan just said, it is a major effort to put this together, and we recognize that, and we appreciate, everyone's contributions in Public Works in getting it to the point where it could be presented. But, man, it's just kind of agonizing to see how long a lot of these projects take. And I know it's not just agonizing for us, it's agonizing for you and city staff as well. So, which leads me to whether or not and if there is any notion about process, reviewing the internal processes that are used to manage and govern all of these programs, just to see if there's any way that any more efficiencies can be squeezed out of them. Because I'm not aware that any formal process reviews have ever taken place, but I don't know what I don't know, so.
I think we'll have a great opportunity once we get a new Public Works Director on board. And that could be one of their priorities, is to look at the efficiencies of our whole system.
Right,
Because-
that's what I meant.
Exactly, because what happens too is that I believe it was probably 10 years ago now or so when we added, I think, 5 engineers. It almost doubled the size of the engineering division because there was such a backlog of capital projects going on. And the city council said, yes, we recognize that, we agree with you. And that's not, the engineers aren't cheap. So, to add that kind of new labor to
was a big deal, yeah.
to that. Thankfully, many of the projects are, have separate grants or revenues. And so the time that was spent on those projects by the new engineers didn't cost the bottom line of the general fund. So that was great.
So maybe, I really like that comment. Could we make a direct point on that in our feedback to the city council, that when a new director is assigned, that is something that's done, that our recommendation?
I think if you generalize it just a little bit by saying that would be, you would like to see an efficiency or a review
A
of.
process
Of the
review.
process review
To
of
improve,
that.
the timelessness, what can we do to improve it? Are you good with that?
And with all the conversation and publicity about AI tools, I would like to think that implementing some of those tools towards these kinds of projects, which lend themselves, in my opinion, very well to a lot of AI capabilities that I've personally been fooling around with, would help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Mr. Campo.
I want to thank Gil for dealing with us today with some of our difficult questions. So thank you and being prepared and helping us understand. So real appreciative of that. I also really like your response on how you do the completeness check. It gives me confidence that we're not going to have too many surprises. The concern would be is, for example, in Lot 4, because it's the timing and stuff like that, the prioritization, that could pop up. So that makes me somewhat nervous, just timing-wise. I see that, if the Metlocks escalators gets pushed out, maybe we're not going to spend $1 million this year or whatever it's appropriated, and maybe we can, mid-year or whatever, make some shifts and maybe address some of the higher priority items. So I look forward to kind of hearing where that stands. Coming from the private arena, this is very frustrating for me because this is not the way I'm used to seeing us plan and budget. I would have expected to see, here's the projects, and if they're balanced to what we can afford and do, they would have been spread out, and I would like to see what that project plan is. So I fundamentally disagree with how we're going about this and not having that visibility. I just think that we're asking to approve a backlog of work, and that's the best way I can describe it, okay? So I don't feel like I can approve a plan. I can approve a backlog of known work.
If I may
Yes.
comment. I disagree with Commissioner Campe, and my disagreement is based on this. Whether you're in private or public sector, you've got to come up with what the priorities are, get them on a sheet of paper, get everybody focused on it. Whether this is the official and final or complete sign-offs have been done on contracts, what we're being asked to approve is a plan for going forward on a series of things that need to be done for our city. The priorities don't just get set by PPIC. They're affected by several other commissions and then city council. And on top of that, by what Public Works can actually schedule with their amount of manpower. So while I understand the frustration, unfortunately, this is the way it works, and this is what we are in the process of approving.
All right, thank you. I'd just like to add, I think there's, for me, you know, when we looked at Lot 3 and it felt like we were a little bit reactive in its infrastructure, I would like to see the assessment on Lot 2 and 4 be prioritized earlier if possible. Again, us being proactive in some of the infrastructure projects is crucial to making sure that we're getting ahead of this, but understood why it was placed in fiscal year 28. So other than that, any other last comments, commissioners? Okay, we have what we need, Eric?
We do. I note that there's special comments with regard to reviewing our internal processes and efficiencies, in addition to perhaps looking at the CIP part of the way through the year to look at priorities and if there are projects that are going to necessarily be pushed or aren't appropriated yet. And also thirdly, to prioritize the safety reviews of Lot 2 and 4 so that you can get a handle on what needs to be done sooner. Do I have that?
Perfect, yep.
Yes, thank you. All right, let's move on to other items. Any other items from staff?
Thank you. Just a couple of updates, and I'll hand it off to Director Alkire. We've been very busy with regard to some of these PPIC items that we've taken before you in the recent months. So in particular, our city parking management study the report was approved by City Council at the last meeting. The consultant is finalizing the final report, and it'll be our roadmap for all of the parking strategies that you recommended that we move forward with in downtown and the North Manhattan Beach areas. Some of them are already being acted on, and we are already starting to do some of the implementation of those. Also, the tree section permit parking zone that was recommended by the PPIC and approved at the end of last calendar year by the City Council now has 2 new parking zones. The residents went through the petition process, so they were validated, and we'll be posting up parking signs in the area in the tree section along Oak Avenue. The two streets are 30th Street between Elm and the barrier, just short of Sepulveda Boulevard, and then on 33rd Street next to the Extra Care Center. Those 2 areas will be posted with 2-hour parking, except by permit. That 2-hour parking will be effective 24 hours a day. So even in the middle of the night, there will still be 2-hour parking except by permit. Also, a couple of months ago, you took it was last month, the Sepulveda Boulevard traffic safety strategies to you, and you made some recommendations that will be going to the City Council at their next general meeting on May 5th to approve, and then we will move forward with over 40 strategies that were proposed for pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and vehicle safety along Sepulveda Boulevard. So we're excited about that.
Eric, can I just
Yeah.
ask one question on that one?
Mm-hmm.
You know, after the meeting, I thought about it quite a bit. You know, the death accidents were caused late at night, right, where people had high-speed traffic. And what we talked about was the best thing we could do there is police Sepulveda more at late-night hours. Can you refresh my memory on what we said in our recommendation around that? Because that should be, I think, a top recommendation to increase our policing and our surveillance at night.
Sure, you wanted, the commission wanted to highlight the, what could be done late at night with regard to that particular type of a collision. We looked at all types of collisions, not
Right,
just those, of course. But there are several strategies that are built into that, or that would apply during the late night periods. Some of it being turn restrictions, because one or two of those accidents was related to turning movements that were either illegal or unsafe. The state of California, Caltrans, will be building in a set of signal timing along Sepulveda Boulevard to actually rest some of those traffic signals in red, which means that you'll have to come up to a stop before you get to go forward and move forward down the street at 2 a.m. And so that kind of interrupts that flow, so you're not just barreling down the road all night long. So that's another plus. Of course, increased enforcement is important at those hours, at the critical hours. And then just generally, some of the infrastructure will be there 24/7 all the time, such as places where we're going to plant things in the median so you can't just cross anywhere, those kinds of things, because you can't see someone crossing in the middle of the night mid-block.
I just think this is something we could implement very quickly while these other infrastructure items get done. Our public is very eager to see some action taken, I think, and that would be very visible. So if there's anything we could try to push that forward, I don't know if anybody else on the dais agrees, but I think it'd be wise for us to really try to push for that.
Yeah, take a look at the staff report when it comes out.
Okay.
And there will be at least a dozen items that we've already implemented, and another dozen that are in the works that don't cost a lot of money, that could be done quickly, as you mentioned. We've already purchased a speed feedback sign that shows you what your speeds are. Those can be tracked. We also have recording devices on those to find out how, what times of the day it's worse, that kind of thing. But we've already purchased it. So, we're waiting for it to come in so that we can install it.
Thank you.
Eric, included in that is one of the items, the reflector that we talked about in the median there, northbound Sepulveda at Marine?
At Marine, yes.
Where it jogs?
That's part of the measures as well.
Great, okay, thanks. I have another related question. So it's pretty clear that the state of California is increasing its use of speed cameras. So do you have any view on when those will be able to be deployed more readily in a community like ours?
Sure. The legislation authorized a couple of cities, including Malibu, to have a pilot project for speed enforcement cameras. The city has reached out to the legislators to ask, can we be added to that pilot project?
But it's still only in pilot phase.
It's only in the pilot phase. What has to happen is that because it's a pilot, those cities will be reporting back to
Sure.
back to the state of California, saying what are the results, what's the effectiveness, and then they'll have to decide. The state will
Okay.
have to decide if we want to make it part of the vehicle code.
Okay. Thanks.
So, if you were looking at your magic 8 ball, the prospects are positive on that one.
I would hope so.
Yeah. There's a lot of support behind it.
Any other staff items?
I want to turn it over to Masa.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank you, Chair Marcy and Commissioner Kirschenbaum, on the public service that you have provided the city, and we have certificates of appreciation for your service on the commission. Thank you for 3 years of service, Chair Marcy, and 6 years of service, Commissioner Kirschenbaum. I know it takes time and effort, and thank you for stepping up for your city.
That's very
You
kind.
still got to put up with me for one more meeting.
Yeah, we'll present the certificate to you at that meeting.
Yeah.
And then we're finally rid of him?
So,
I did share with some staff that I likely will have a conflict for the May meeting. So this this is likely my last meeting on this commission and
Oh,
last
wow.
meeting to chair it, so.
Seems like you just started.
And a lot has happened while you've been on the commission.
Absolutely, and two things that I've been reminded in this term is that we have just the best staff we could ask for, and thank you for everything you do for our city. I've been very impressed with the caliber of our talent, and serving in this capacity is always a reminder of that. And to the commissioners, it's just been an honor and a privilege, so thank you so much.
Wow, thank you.
Wait a minute, Chair Marcy. Does that mean we're not going to see that purple sports jacket in the future?
I'll leave a picture for the
Unless it's
next.
from the audience.
All right, any other commissioner items?
No, thank you.
Okay, then without further ado, we'll adjourn to May 28th, 2026 for our next scheduled meeting. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right.